At First Rounds on Me, we believe that one real date is better than 100 pen pals. With our mobile dating app, we make it fun and easy for you to meet someone in person for a real date. See someone you're interested in? We help plan your date. Pick a drink, a time, a venue, and send that person a date invite. It's that simple. You only get one confirmed date per day. Give your full attention to one person at a time so you can actually get to know each other in person. Our key differentiators allow you to focus on what's most important: dating with intention and connecting with someone in person. Once your date is confirmed, you only get 12 hours to chat before your date starts. If you're tired of the endless small talk with pen pals on other dating apps, First Rounds on Me is for you.
Welcome back to Crowdsourcing Love. I'm here today with Erica Spera. Hi, Erica.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. How are you today?
Not bad. I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty frantic right now. I just came from uptown. I'm busy, but I like being busy.
Yeah, me too. I'm
Yeah.
better on a schedule.
You're better on a
Yeah,
schedule?
if I have all day to do something, I will do it at 9 p.m. It's bad.
Yeah, I'm a procrastinator too. So Erica's a comedian, but I would love you to formally introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do?
Oh, sure. My name is Erica Spera. I am a comedian in New York. I've been doing comedy for like 10 years now. And I also host a dating relationship podcast,
Mhm.
2 of them. And I am public about having herpes. So that's kind of my short spiel. I
Okay.
came out about it on my podcast, Shooters Gotta Shoot, years ago. And yeah, so that's often why I'm on dating podcasts for a
Yeah,
topic.
no, I think that you're really interesting because of many reasons, not just your herpes,
Oh,
but
thanks.
I think it's an important topic at some point to cover just because I think that it's more common than people talk about. And so there's a lot of stigma, but that's just because there's not a lot of understanding. But I don't want to start there. I want to talk about Mr. Height first.
Sure.
So how
That's
long
my other
have
podcast, Finding Mr. Height.
because your shooter's got to shoot
Mhm.
and Mr. Height.
Mhm.
Okay, so how tall are you?
I'm 5'11". I'm just under 6 feet.
Okay. And is dating in the tall girl space, do you find it harder or you know what I mean? I'm just wondering because of the name of the podcast.
Yes. So the name of the podcast stems from my co-host. That's her TikTok handle, and
Okay.
she kind of did something similar to you. Did I believe 15 or 20 dates 1 month
Oh wow.
to basically challenge herself to really do online dating because she had
Okay.
never really tried it, took it seriously, put herself out there.
Okay.
So she started the account to kind of hold herself accountable, and she's also tall. She's 6 feet tall.
Mm,
So in general, on dating and height,
yeah.
what's interesting is my co-host Allie does not date people shorter than her. I do.
Okay.
I'm open to doing that.
Yeah.
But I have also done personal experiments with online where I made my height shorter to see if it would make a difference, and it does.
Oh, it really does.
Yeah, you get more matches.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because either way, though, I find a lot of men don't pay attention to the details.
Mm,
And I have pictures that show I'm significantly taller than other women to be like, hey, in case you missed it.
yeah.
But ultimately, I don't care.
Yeah, you don't care.
No, I don't. It's harder online to be attracted to someone that's shorter than you
Mhm.
because obviously it's the first time you're meeting, and as opposed to meeting someone in person, you might just feel whatever vibe or energy.
Okay.
But the last 2 guys I was very much into were shorter than me, so I've never really had a hard rule.
Yeah.
It's more of a it would be nice.
Yeah.
It's an added bonus for me,
It is a bonus.
but it's I think I looked up the stats. It's 14% of the U.S. population are 6 feet and taller for men,
Mhm.
which is not a lot.
It's not a lot.
It's not a
There's a
lot.
lot of short kings out there,
Yes.
and as long as they're confident and secure in themselves, I personally don't care about height, but I've been told by guys who are shorter that I also have tall girl energy,
Oh,
and
interesting.
so, they think I need to be dating taller men too,
How
but
tall are you?
I'm only 5'6". I mean,
Oh, that's
it's
very
very
interesting.
it's very average, but I just also think it's, how you're built, because I feel like
Yeah.
I'm a little bit lanky. I don't know if that makes sense. I have long
Interesting.
legs.
Okay. I mean, sometimes it's just your natural presence. I've been told I read tall, when I walk in a room by myself.
Oh,
And
really?
that's usually when you can't tell how tall someone is really.
Mm,
Or
true.
I perform on stage, and it's the number one thing people will say to me after.
How tall
If
are
they
you?
walk up to me and say hello, they'll go, "Oh, wow, you're tall."
Okay.
But it's when you're by yourself with nothing to compare to. I
Yeah.
think sometimes it's just more about energy. If you walk in a room and you stand up straight and you have a presence, you come off
Yeah.
taller. Like
Oh,
Kevin
I like
Hart is
that.
so short, but I've seen
Mm.
him enter a room and it's He's the biggest man in the room.
Like he has presence.
Yeah, huge presence.
And that's why I don't care about the exact statistics of like I am this feet high and like these inches tall or whatever. Sorry, I'm like totally butchering it, but you get what I'm saying. Where it's like it doesn't really matter because it's like how do you carry yourself? What's your energy like? What's your confidence like? But I also respect it. Like I've heard people be like, I'm gonna puke if he's not taller than me,
Oh God.
and like I've heard that too. And I'm like, honestly, if that's your number one priority and you care about that more than like is he family oriented or has good values, like that's your cross to bear. Like it's not my business to like try to change your mind.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of that thing like build the $5 man challenge?
No, what is this?
It's this list of different traits, and basically you only have $5, and each trait is you spend money. But they make it so it's like
Oh.
if you want tall and good looking, those are both $3. You can't have both.
Oh.
So it does what you say, where it's like, okay, pick what's really most important to you,
Yeah.
but you still need to be open minded. Where it's like, do you think you're going to get absolutely everything in a
Mhm.
person? No.
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
That's
So
the,
like,
that's the
I'm willing to
thing.
compromise
Yeah.
on height, and
Mhm.
I'd rather like put that money towards something else. You know what I
Yeah. What would you put your money towards?
mean? I don't remember exactly what was on the list.
But like, what are your top 3 priorities?
Top 3 priorities in general of a person.
Mhm.
Definitely family oriented because I want kids. So I want
Mhm.
someone else who wants kids.
Yep.
Motivated is definitely a top one.
Okay.
Because I'm very driven, and I also have found with past relationships, you can't motivate somebody. They got to motivate themselves.
Totally.
The last one I'd say is probably just very caring. Very
Yeah.
caring and wants to take care of you in some way.
I love that.
And that's been a big difference I've noticed with other people. So it's like, yeah.
Caring as in like generosity of spirit.
Maybe like
they're
thoughtful's a
thinking
better
like they're
word.
thinking of you. They want to
Yeah, not
like
just me though. It's like it's how attractive is
Oh.
it to see someone that really is thoughtful towards other people?
Yeah, like their friends, their family.
Yes, very
Yeah.
much. Like notice it, I mean, it could be the littlest thing like, oh, they notice you're out of toilet paper and they go get it.
Yeah.
Like that's so basic, but like just having roommates, you're like, wow, that shit really adds up.
It does add
It
up.
really adds
No,
up.
that's
And
really I like that.
you notice the difference in personality.
I mean, yeah, I love a generous person. So, kind of backing up a little bit, how did you get into comedy? Did you have any jobs before comedy, or like what's kind of your origin story in this space?
I've had a lot of different jobs.
Okay.
Yeah, I just started comedy fresh out of college, came to
Mhm.
New York. I actually took a class because I had no idea how to start
Mm,
comedy, and I was always interested in it. And then I just worked, God, really any job that just gave me the flexibility to do comedy. So
yeah.
I've done everything from like being an office assistant in like a finance space and like a tech space, to like one time I was hustling 3 different jobs of restaurant, retail, and an ad agency part time,
Yeah.
and different freelance stuff. So yeah, I've been all over the map because my number one was just I just need a job. I have an out time, and I don't have to stay late often, so I could go do shows, do
Okay.
open mics, and like work on everything else outside of work.
Yeah, that's really
So
cool.
yeah, it was great. It was
Yeah.
great.
So, how is it dating and being a comedian? How's it dating and being a dating podcaster? How do those dynamics kind of go together in your life?
I think the impression of them is somewhat the same because
Okay.
the men, when they find out either I'm a comedian or have a dating podcast, their first thing is just like, oh, so like, am I material
Yeah.
and am I going to be talked about? So it's interesting because I've had people not come at me, but basically comment like, well, how do you expect to have a boyfriend if you have a dating podcast? And I'm like, first
Mm,
of all, my dating podcast is not just spilling about a bunch of stuff from people
yeah.
I went out with. That's
Mhm.
not what it is.
Right.
It sounds like you say dating podcast and everyone thinks you're like, call her daddy. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
what it is,
Totally.
actually.
Yep.
Because also I'm like, I like men. I don't hate men. Why would I be
Mhm.
on a podcast just bashing men? That's
Mhm.
why, yeah, that wouldn't help me at all, would it?
I
No.
feel like Call Her Daddy bashed women more. That's
I
my
mean,
take,
Call
but
Her Daddy was very, put a lot of ideas in young women's minds that I really felt bad and did not agree with.
yeah.
Like if he's not sleeping with you, he's fucking somebody else. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, this generation has enough anxiety. What are we doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't agree with a lot of stuff from that pod. But it's like, yeah,
Mhm.
you listen to that pod and then you think, oh, that's what it's gonna be. No. But yeah, it's very like in general, I think I need someone who is very confident, and that doesn't mean they're necessarily very like extroverted, but
Mm.
just you have to be a confident person, or also to also be like quote the behind the camera, you know.
Mm.
And I don't even mean that just in the like entertainment space. It's very like in relationships that energy shifts, right? Sometimes you're the star and the other person is the cheerleader.
Yeah.
And both people need to like be comfortable to switch in and out of those roles.
I agree. There can't just be one star because humans are multidimensional, and like it's just
Yes.
not right to think that you should have the sun on you at all times, and vice versa with your partner.
Yes. So I
Hmm.
kind of hate people will be like, "Oh, you need someone. You're the sparkler on the cake, and they're the cake."
No, I don't agree with that.
And I'm like,
Yeah,
"No, because like that's also my job."
true.
So like I do that all the time.
Yep.
That then when I come home, I'm like, I don't want to feel like I have to
Be the
be this like
sparkler.
performer or also like
Yeah.
take charge of everything. And what I
Hmm.
do is a very masculine energy type of job. You're like commanding a room, you have the full control.
Yeah.
And often I will draw people that then think, "Oh, good, you'll like call the shots and run the show entirely
Oh,
in a relationship." And I'm like, "But I don't want that."
so you attract a lot of beta men.
Yeah, typically. And it's
Okay.
also my natural energy. It's just always been.
Alpha.
Yeah, I'm like I played basketball in college. I've always been like a sports person.
Mm.
And how I used to date was more masculine energy. I was very like God, I remember being in middle school like, it's 2002. I can ask a guy out if I want.
I love that.
And I
Yeah.
still think you can,
I
but
think
now
you
I've
can too.
learned more to like have a balance with it
Yeah.
and not always be the one initiating every date and every text and every all that stuff.
Yeah, you need reciprocity.
Yeah,
You just do.
right.
But I think it's okay to like speak first if that's, how the spirit moves you. That's
Yes,
fine.
I
Like
agree.
like whatever. So you recently did a episode on sexual assault.
Hmm.
What do you think about guys who, cuz I've heard this a few different times recently where men are like post-MeToo movement, like it's really hard to approach women. We don't want to be canceled or we don't want to be creepy. I personally don't agree with that take, but how do you kind of think about that?
I think the post Me Too movement has made men not chase as much.
You think?
I think it's made them not try several times. I think that's the biggest notice
Okay.
I've had. So like if you're playing hard to get, you're actually not really going to be getting that much in
Yeah.
terms of like some people have this idea like, oh, you shouldn't accept like a date right away.
Mm.
And I'm like, who the fuck cares? Like, because I think men have learned just like, oh, okay, if I ask once and she gives me the vibe she's not interested,
No
I'm not
means
going to
no.
keep bothering her.
Mm.
That's the number one thing I've heard from all my male friends about
Yeah.
it. It's like, yeah, there's no more of this playing hard to get. You reject a
Yeah.
man, they've learned, oh, I need to respect that because if I don't, now I'm crossing over into Me Too territory.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I also think that if you reject a guy and you actually like him, it's just like so counterintuitive.
I
I
don't
just
understand.
just communicate clearly. Like you don't have it's not like you're being desperate by just being like, "Yes, I'll go on a date
No.
with you." I also think that if you are super hard to get, the only guys who will pursue you like that are kind of the guys who are in it for the game.
Yes.
And that's not the energy that you want to end up with. And
Mhm.
so being too hard to get or aloof is just like I don't think that's the move when it comes to intentional dating.
Yeah, or it is an asshole that's just a pushy person.
Yeah.
And who
Yeah.
wants that? I wouldn't want that.
I mean, that's what I've been with though, because I'm very aloof in dating. And so I've had a string of relationships where it's like I always end up with the asshole.
Hmm.
But now I'm trying to change that.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that come from like wanting them to pursue everything too?
I think so. I
That's
think
very interesting.
I really like being pursued. I'm like pretty aloof at the beginning and then I like switch into like, oh my God, I'm like so anxious now. I'm obsessed. It's not a great pattern.
No.
I think the best luck women have is when they like kind of like indirectly choose somebody, like drop the handkerchief and then like kind of like let him do the
The
rest.
drop the hanger.
You
Yeah, I
know?
know that theory.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I'm into that.
Yeah, like be like, oh, I'm interested.
Like say hi to him, but
Yeah,
like don't
something.
ask him on a full on date. Or you could be like, hey, let's get drinks, let's get coffee, and then let him choose the spot.
Yeah, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Because I
That's
think most people, I always had a theory, even let's say back in the day when like women weren't straight up asking out. My theory was always women are making the first move, technically.
yeah.
There's always some signal you throw to them that they think she won't reject me.
Yeah.
And it can be the smallest thing like you smiled at them.
I know.
Like it really can be the smallest thing like that. And I'm not,
Yeah.
being like women smile more. But it's fucking true.
Or like asking for directions or
So anything.
anything.
Anything. Just
Yeah.
the fact that you initiate like an open door or just an openness even in your body language is a
Yeah.
signal to people that we don't even realize we're doing.
Gotta give the open vibes.
Yes, you
Yeah.
have to. And it's hard. It's very hard. I don't get approached in public that
Mm,
much. I've tried. And one of my methods is I will just keep looking over at somebody.
I love it.
Like,
Do you ever
it's
get
so
like do you
simple.
ever get like a what the fuck?
No.
Nah, I'm just
No, it's
kidding.
flattering,
Yeah, it is.
Even if someone's not interested, it's always flattering if you were to approach somebody, which I will also still do. I'll still initiate an approach.
And just what's your line then?
I mean, you just have to open the door and say like hello.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll do it like on my way out. So it's also like, okay, if this doesn't go well, I don't have to stand here in this rejection.
You have an escape route.
Yeah. I've done it on
Yeah.
a train. Being like, all right, I'll do it at the
Oh.
stop before my stop. And then I get off the train.
What happened?
I remember I gave a guy my number. We ended up going out.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Like I just kind of kept looking over. I caught him looking at me. I was like, that guy's really cute.
Yeah.
Why not?
Oh my
And
God.
that's all you have to say. You're just like, hey, I thought you were cute.
Do you
Here's
have
my
like,
number.
do you like challenge yourself? Like, are you like, okay, I have to give out my number 4 times this week? Like, what's the
mean,
strategy?
No, I mean, I've tried that before.
Yeah.
It's just more like I have the personality. I will be more mad at myself if I don't do anything. If you're somewhere and you feel like there's a vibe with someone or you keep like looking at somebody, I'm just like, what do I have to lose?
Yeah.
I'm already not dating him.
Mm-hmm.
So if I go over and say hi and he doesn't seem to be interested, okay, well, nice to meet you. And I just keep it moving.
That's so true. I mean,
Like I kick
Yeah.
myself being like, why didn't you just say hello
yeah,
when I leave?
I need to start doing that.
It's not
I
bad.
think that's a good tip.
It's very terrifying, but I just say like, what I'm about to do is flattering. This is going to make their night.
Yeah.
So whatever the situation, if I end up going out with this guy, I don't, whatever, or even if he, let's say I give him my number and I've had this, suddenly you just get hit up like late at night. Oh, you out? What are you doing? Hookup vibes.
Yeah, I would say nothing.
I'm not mad about it. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, we wanted different things.
Oh, so do you say that or do you just like ghost?
I wouldn't straight up ghost. I would just deny. I'd just be like, oh yeah, I'm busy.
Do you ever ghost?
I feel like I've only ghosted maybe once or twice, and it was always when you get like, when I'd get like lots and lots of texts where you're just like, I don't know what to say.
It's too much energy coming at you.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
just, it's like a lot where you're like, it's always when you just can't find the words.
Yeah, I get anxious and I do go, like I used to ghost a lot. I'm trying to be better now.
Wow, that's pretty bad.
But it's
people
just,
you've met, by the way.
yeah, it's just like anxiety. It's anxiety related though. And so it's like, you know what I mean? It's like a me problem, but I think that you can't take ghosting personally because I think when it's happening, it's because that person is emotionally like not able to communicate what they need to communicate. I'm
Or
not,
you
I'm
feel
not,
bad, like whatever the thing you're gonna say, you feel bad because
Yeah.
you're essentially rejecting someone.
yeah.
They're both a
and-
rejection at the end of the day.
Exactly. And so I think no words is words. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like it means something if they don't say anything ever again. Of course it sucks. I don't think it's acceptable. But after 2 or 3 dates, I think it's okay.
hmm This also makes sense why you've dated some of the men that you've dated, like you said before.
Yeah.
Because when I've done that or been really short with people,
Mm-hmm.
it's just playing into that like whole chase bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's never been guys it's worked out with.
No.
But I've done it almost as an experiment. Like, I bet if I am very short and act disinterested, and it works. It can
Yeah.
work, but it's never worked like long term and actually in a good relationship.
Yeah, but like with these guys, I wasn't actually interested. It wasn't me playing a
Mm.
game. It was like I wasn't. And then they pursued so persistently that they like changed my mind.
Okay, and then
You
the
know what I
minute you were
mean?
interested, did they lose interest?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's always what it is.
Of course.
Yeah, and that's the most frustrating, even when you're like on the fence about
I'm
being
like, I didn't
interested.
even like you.
Yeah.
Like now you're doing this. Like
It's
it's
the most
so
ego-killing,
yeah.
where you're like, I do not understand. You wanted this.
Mm-hmm.
And the minute I was like, okay, I'm in, gone.
Yep.
Yeah, very frustrating.
But it's about the game for those people.
Mhm.
So you have been vocal about having herpes. You know, how has that impacted your love life?
Good and bad.
Okay.
I feel like anything in life, you get some good, some bad.
Mm-hmm.
Good. I got it when I was 25. I'm now 32.
Mm-hmm.
I was always very bad at like being vulnerable and showing really any signs of like weakness. I very much had the mentality like never let them see you sweat. Nothing bothers you. All that stuff. Especially like I felt like I needed to be someone's girlfriend to kind of earn that in a way.
Okay.
You know, so it's like a little bit of that chill girl where you're like, okay, I don't want to seem like, you know, things
It's
bother
cool,
me.
girl. Yeah.
Right. But the truth is, when you're vulnerable and open in ways, or even just little things like needing some help, and I'm
Mhm.
not saying herpes is me like needing help, but just in general, very little things like saying to somebody like, oh, could you like open the door for me? Or
Mhm.
could you help me carry this? Like little shit that you're like, I could do this by myself. It makes people like you more. Like people want to feel needed.
Yeah.
And I was kind of raised, and also I think my generation was raised to be like, okay, women are independent now. Like we
Mm.
make our own money, we do our own stuff. You don't need a man. And it's like I cannot need a man and at the same time make a man feel needed. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think like having herpes really finally put me in a spot like I was kind of forced to have to be vulnerable with people earlier than I maybe normally would have.
Mm.
And I would not really open up about anything that maybe I had like trouble with um, or dealt with. So I think in that sense, it was good. I think it made me like actually more relatable in a sense,
Mhm.
or the people that were okay with it, it actually like brought us closer together.
Yeah.
And it also opens the door for them to be vulnerable because we all want vulnerability and then we all get stubborn, like, well, I'm not going to show it first.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I've just learned like, oh, when things naturally come up, whether it's about herpes or something else, I've learned to just kind of be more open and more vulnerable. And I used to think that was something that would be unattractive. And I think it's actually the opposite. I think people are very drawn to when you are like that. I think that's what makes you closer and they possibly like see you in a different light in a
Yeah.
way.
I think so too. I think being able to like show your cards, like obviously like you can't show your cards to everyone, and I think some
Right.
people have trouble with boundaries where like they're over giving and they're over trusting, but I think that also if you're kind of leaning towards the side of like you have your wall up a lot,
Hmm.
being able to kind of like lay down your guard a little bit,
Exactly.
let people in, I think it's really attractive. Like I think both men and women crave that.
We do. We
Mhm.
do. But it's a weird thing where you feel like, I mean, I think men feel this more where it's like you can't look like weak.
Mm.
But I felt that, and I think that came from my sports background. It was very like,
Oh
if you let
yeah.
stuff bother you and you let people see you sweat, it's like just gonna make you make another mistake. And I kind of had that same mentality in life. And it was great for work. I was very successful in all my jobs. I would get promoted and everything. I was such a worker. And it's like, because I was very good at like not showing like quote bad emotions at work and keeping my cool and all this stuff. And then when it came to dating, I think it really hurt me
Yeah.
because people would be like, it's like there's no emotion to you really
Mm.
at all,
Yeah.
good and bad.
Yep.
So
Like you were very strong and they were wanting to tap into like different sides of you.
yeah, they feel like
Mm.
they don't know you on a level more than other people. And I think that's kind of what
Totally.
it gets at.
Yeah. No, that's good. I'm glad that you're able to talk to people. But what's the timeline with it? Like, how does it work? Because
Oh, with
other
like
people,
telling people about herpes?
yeah, like obviously, like not everyone deserves to know your secrets.
Yes.
But I mean, obviously, it's kind of an open secret in that, like, it's not a secret. Like, it's not something
Yeah,
to
now I'm
have shame
public about
about,
it.
but you're public about it. But like, when it comes to somebody who you're going on dates with, how do you kind of approach it?
That's a good question. A lot of times people ask, yeah, like when should you tell somebody?
Right.
I've varied on it. Especially now being public, I'm very comfortable, like, I've had people, like, make a joke about herpes
Oh,
early,
really?
like a first date, second date, and I kinda was like, "Well, since we're on the subject."
Oh,
Because a lot of times people make jokes like that, they don't realize, like, how common
it
it is.
is. Yeah.
And a lot of times, like, when I have that opportunity, I'll just be like, "Oh, herpes is actually very common. Like, you don't
Mm-hmm.
know anyone with herpes?" And they usually say, "No." And then I'll be like, "Oh, I have it."
Okay.
And there's something to having that attitude about it too that I think makes people a little more accepting.
Yeah, because you accept yourself. If you were in a shame spiral, people will be like, "Oh, there is something wrong with her because like the way she thinks about it." But if you're
Yeah.
like, "You know what? It's fine. It's the situation."
Mhm. Yeah, it's like, um it's hard because when I first had it, I was very much not good at telling people. I was
Okay.
awful at it. I was like backing myself into a corner where it basically be like we would start to get physical, and I would have to like stop it to be like, oh, I have this thing,
Yeah, that's hard.
because I didn't know how to bring it up and tell people. So what I've learned is like, when should you tell people? I still feel like that varies for the person, obviously before you sleep with them,
Mm.
but I found like doing it in a bedroom type environment or you go back to their place type environment is typically not the best because you're also putting them on the spot to make a decision right then and there and you're not giving them really a second to think about it.
Mm.
Whereas if you tell them in like a more casual setting, it almost does seem like kind of less of a big deal and also gives the opportunity to like talk about it. They can ask questions, they can go home, do some research, talk to their doctor.
Mhm.
But I think the biggest thing is like you're putting yourself on the platform to be a yes or a no. So I
Yeah.
was getting a lot of rejections when I was doing that, and I think it's because it's like you put a gun to somebody's head.
Yeah.
Like, decide right now. Do we
Yep.
do we wanna have sex? Do we not? And the majority of people just don't know much about herpes.
Right.
So you're kinda setting yourself up for failure.
Totally.
But I'd say I'd probably bring it up around the 3rd date, whether I'm thinking about, like, sleeping with them or not.
Mm.
It's essentially when I decide, "I like this person, I wanna see where this goes, I'll reveal this in case it is somewhat of a deal breaker." But it's usually after we've at least had, like, a little bit of physical contact, like, made out,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
Because
I
it's
mean, that makes sense.
yeah,
Mhm.
but there's some yeah,
No,
more about that.
that's good to know. So you said it's super common. How common is it?
I looked this up before it came, so,
Okay.
like, I think it was globally, I believe. It was, 67%, of people are known to have either HSV1 or HSV2.
Okay.
And I think 13% of that is HSV2. So HSV1 is much more common, which is the
Okay.
type I have.
Okay. And then isn't there a medication that you can take where it like basically makes it like non-transferable or
It'll
something?
help, yeah, not transmit it, but it's
Yeah.
mostly you mostly take it to avoid having outbreaks.
Okay.
Number one.
Yep.
Yeah, Valtrex is like the I, whatever non-generic one, and then
Okay.
there's many other generic types like
Yeah.
valacyclovir, I believe is how you spell
Yeah.
it. But yeah, there's medication you can take. It's not like PrEP though, where it's like the other person also takes it and it lowers
Oh,
your
okay.
transmission rate.
Yeah.
It's just for you because there's a chance you can be like quote shedding and not have like any bumps,
Yep.
and that's like on average 8 days a year. But it depends on the person. I don't take it at all, and I haven't for years. And I've had partners with and without condoms, and I still have not transmitted it. So that's unfortunately something you kind of figure out more with the time that you have it. And it's also why I encourage people, if you're not currently dating anybody and being sexual with anyone, to not take the medication.
Oh, okay.
And you often will find if you have certain triggers for outbreaks.
Oh,
Yeah. So I
interesting.
have one friend, if she just doesn't get a lot of sleep, it'll trigger an outbreak.
Okay.
Some people, it's if you have a very stressful week. Others, it's just like allergy season.
Mm.
A lot of women, it's around your menstrual cycle
Okay.
that they'll be like, oh, when I'm like getting my period, those first couple dates, I might have a bump or two. But I
Okay.
think it's interesting to know because if you kind of naturally figure out if you have your own cycle to it, it's even easier to avoid
And manage
passing to
it.
somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, let's say somebody just found out that they have it, what would you say to them? Would you, because I'm sure it was not an easy journey
No,
just
I
because
was a
of the
mess.
stigma around it. So, like, what would you say to them, I guess?
I mean, the first thing is many people have this that you do not know.
Mm-hmm.
You know them personally, though. I'll tell
But
you
you
that.
don't know that they have it.
You don't know that they have
Yeah.
it. Nobody really reveals this,
Mm-hmm.
which is unfortunate because once I revealed it, there were many people personally in my life who just never, told anybody except
Mm-hmm.
for whoever they were dating, who then were like, "Oh my God, I have it too."
Yep.
And it's shocking. It's very, very shocking. First thing, especially it's hard for most people to deal with and manage. Talk to somebody about it. You have to find somebody you trust to talk about it, whether that's a friend, a therapist, family, whatever. That's on you. The more you keep it quiet and to yourself, it's just going to eat at you. I
Mm-hmm.
know that's what happened to me. And I found this like all women's support group, Herpes, that I would go to like every other week.
Okay.
And that really, really helped me was just finding other people that had it. So like I walked into a room and it was like, oh, here's all these badass women
Mm-hmm.
that are just like me
Yep.
and like quote normal people. So like just being like, oh, all these other normal people have it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not alone. Like that feeling alone was such like a weight lifted off my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's eating at you, I'm like, you got to talk to somebody about it. So maybe it's a therapist if you don't feel comfortable talking to friends and stuff like that. The other thing is, I mean, you're not alone. And at the end of the day, it isn't a big deal. I know it feels like a big deal. Like when I first got diagnosed and had an outbreak, my first thought was just, oh my God, you didn't have a boyfriend before having herpes. Like, how are you going to get one after? Which is such a sad thought to
Yeah.
have.
Mm-hmm.
But it very much felt like I was dealt this thing that was like, oh, now nobody's going to want to be with you. And that is not at all true.
Right.
It feels like it. It's going to be hard the first time you tell other people. But that's why I'm like, you need to be telling some people in your life that you trust because it's also practice for you to tell people.
Mm-hmm.
And the third thing is most people are just very uneducated about it. Because when you get diagnosed by a doctor, they're immediately like, this is nothing.
Oh,
Not a big
really?
deal. Yeah.
Like they're very chill.
If anything, they kind of dismiss it, which
Mm.
fucks with you a little more. Like I was like bawling in a doctor's office and they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, no, this is like not a big thing. They're very like, okay, got herpes. Like, and especially they looked at it for like 2 seconds. I was like, can you look again? That seemed quick.
Yeah, like, are
real
you
quick
sure? Like, what's
diagnosis.
going on?
Yeah, right. But they just know it from the medical standpoint, and they're like, this does not at all put your health at risk for anything.
Oh, it doesn't.
No,
Okay.
no. Like, the top myths of having herpes, I would say, are like the first one is if you sleep with someone that has herpes, you automatically get herpes. That is absolutely not true.
Okay.
You're actually more likely to get it from someone who doesn't know that they have it because
Oh.
they either are like, yeah, are not taking medication, don't know any triggers, like have no idea. So that's how most people get it. That's how I got it. The person that gave it to me had no clue.
Got it.
So it's like, how would anybody know? Some people never have outbreaks, or most people do. I mean, most people have never had an outbreak. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
2, you can have kids perfectly fine. They do not have herpes.
Mm-hmm.
That's like people I think assume that almost like AIDS
Oh,
because
they
it's in
lump
your
them
blood
together.
technically. Yeah,
Okay.
but it's not at all the same. So, like, my friend that has herpes just had a baby. It's very, like, unless you have an outbreak happening, you can have a vaginal birth,
Okay.
everything totally normal. Your baby
Yep.
is fine.
Yep.
Someone once thought it meant you can't get pregnant. That is not true.
That's
You-
chlamydia, I thought, if it's untreated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Mhm.
can really, really affect. If anything,
Fertility.
yeah, in terms of like STD rankings,
Mhm.
yes, herpes is the permanent one, but it's actually the one that affects your health the least.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's why it's not included in routine STD tests, and that's what I tell everybody. Everybody thinks
Oh.
like I've been tested, I'm clean. It's like no, herpes is not included. If you don't get blood drawn, it's not included in your test,
That's interesting. I wonder
and
why they don't include it.
because it's not harmful to your health, and
Oh, so
also
they don't care.
HSV1
You're like,
is so
whatever.
common,
Yeah.
right? If you don't actively have an outbreak, they assume it means you just have had cold sores in your life. So a
Okay.
lot of doctors, even if you get like an HIV blood test, which usually includes it, will not even point it out to you.
Oh, really? But
Yeah.
you had an outbreak, so you're like, excuse me,
I had an
what's
outbreak,
happening?
yeah.
Like,
So I had the blood test and
SOS.
like a swab.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because the swab is the most accurate test. So if you get an outbreak, actually you can go to a dermatologist because it's a skin condition.
Mm.
So it's more so a skin condition than an STI, but
Yeah.
since it's on genitals, it loops in. But
Got
yeah,
it.
you're worse off having gonorrhea or chlamydia. That's why we get tested for it regularly,
Yeah.
because that actually can really affect your reproductive health.
I wonder why there's so much stigma around herpes specifically.
Well, an interesting thing I pulled up is basically if you look at the history of herpes, it
Mhm.
really was not a big deal in like the 70s.
Okay.
It was like kind of like, oh, whatever.
Herpes.
Like,
Yeah.
who cares? Also, and then we had, the AIDS movement. It's like, who the fuck's worried about herpes when AIDS
Yeah.
was, actually a deadly disease, right?
Mhm.
Or, I mean, still is, but like an epidemic of it being spread and getting it. So it was like, oh, at
And
that
people were
time,
dying
yeah.
very quickly. Yep.
But all of this also lines up with Valtrex being invented. So when
Mm.
Valtrex was invented, healthcare companies and Valtrex companies had paid campaigns to kind of reinforce the stigma of having herpes to sell more pills.
That's fucked up.
Because if you're someone like me, right, I always have Valtrex on hand. I get like a refill every time I go to my like yearly or gyno or something, just to be like, oh, I have it in case I have an outbreak. Cool.
Mm.
Like if I go on a long vacation, I'll bring it because
So you only take it when you have an outbreak.
Yeah,
You
but I
don't take
haven't.
it.
Yeah,
So okay. So oh my god.
I only take it if I feel an outbreak coming,
Mm-hmm.
and I've only had really my first outbreak. And there's been 2 other times I thought I was having an outbreak. Turns out I had a yeast infection. So who knew? Like I finally
Oh
was
my
like, okay, I'm
God.
taking these pills. Nothing's getting better. Got checked out. Was like, oh, yeast infection or BV, something else.
Yeah, I'm not trying to minimize herpes, but I'm also kind of like, why the fuck all the stigma? Like, could we all just chill and relax? It's like,
Well, I mean, you do the math, right?
yeah.
If we convince you need to take this Valtrex every day, and there's this
Mm.
fear, because the first 2 years I had herpes, I took it every day.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. And like, so you take someone with herpes, they're either now buying 365 pills a year or they're buying, 30
Yeah.
as an emergency stash.
Mm.
Or I would start taking it when I start dating someone new as just an extra precaution.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's better for business. So it makes sense why there were all these like horrible campaigns and they were putting money behind it. It's like to
Mhm.
get better business.
Yeah.
Like the STI industry in general, like gonorrhea, chlamydia, all that stuff. The stat I looked up, it's like it's an $18 billion moneymaker.
Damn.
So it's like herpes is looped in there, and like I said, like, oh, herpes
Mhm.
is a disease. We convince people they'll be taking a pill every day.
Totally.
So like, yeah, they love that the stigma exists. They're not gonna go to bat to try to eliminate it. They make money off of it.
I just hate it though because I feel like socially, like, I probably told a friend this a while back when she was like, yeah, this guy I'm seeing, he has herpes and I just don't know. And I was like, oh yeah, definitely don't. And now that I'm learning about it, I regret saying that. I'm like,
No, it's
I'm
okay.
ashamed that I said it, to be honest.
Listen, I was
But
that
I
person.
just didn't know.
Yeah, I was that
Like,
person before I got it. I
mhm.
was very like, I'm always safe. I always ask partners, have they been tested?
Yeah.
When's the last time they got tested? Have they ever had an STI? Because
Mhm.
I knew a girl in college that got herpes. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh shit. And I remember looking up like the legalness of it. And it's like,
Yeah.
if someone asks you before they have sex with you, do you have any STIs? And
Mhm.
you know that you do, you
Yeah.
legally have to tell them.
You
Or they
do.
could like sue you, etc.
Okay.
So I like looked that up from her situation. So I was like,
Mm.
all right, anyone I get with. So I was the girl doing that, which like, let's be honest, most people are not asking that question when we sleep with new partners.
Yeah.
We're judging a book by its cover. We're being like, oh, they seem clean.
Yeah.
What? We
But
don't
I
really
hate the
know.
word clean too, because
Exactly,
it's like
yeah.
we're all just a bunch of diseases, to be honest.
Yeah, but I totally. If
Yeah.
you asked me before I had herpes, would you like be with someone that had herpes? I'd say no, because I felt like I do everything right.
Yep.
I take care of my sexual health. I'm looking out for myself. Like, why would I put myself at risk? But I also didn't know that it's like it's actually not that big of a risk.
And if you trust them and they take good care of themselves, it shouldn't be like a big deal.
Yeah, I know a handful of friends that are married with herpes, not using condoms, haven't for years. Their partner
Mm-hmm.
still does not have herpes.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to avoid transmitting to somebody.
Yep.
But of course, it's like the chance is always there. So you have to disclose to people, and people kind of have to take it for
What it
what it is. But
is.
that's why, like, the people that are always cool about it, it's because they know somebody that has it, and it
Okay.
humanizes it to them.
Yeah.
Because it's always assumed, like, well, no one, no quote normal people, or the stigma
Right.
is, well, super promiscuous people. And I was like, when I got herpes, it was the first time I had sex in a year. Like, I had not had a ton of sexual partners.
Yeah,
And
you
no
were
shame
just
if you
it was
do.
honestly like you were unlucky, to be
Yeah,
honest.
very unlucky.
It wasn't like a character flaw. It was
No.
luck and you just happened to be on the other side of it.
And it
And
made me be like, if I got this,
yeah,
then tons of people have it.
and anyone could get it.
Anyone can get it.
And here's the thing, like I'm not here to tell people what to do. It's like your body, your choice.
Yeah, if it's still a deal breaker for you, it
Yeah,
is.
then
It's what it is.
that's your prerogative, but I think it's really helpful to just like humanize it and understand it because again, there's just so much like stigma and miseducation around it.
Yeah, or the thing people don't want to hear is you have already slept with someone that has herpes.
Oh,
It's like
I
one
for
in
sure
six
probably
people have
have.
it. You know, like we all
Yeah.
have and didn't know, and that person probably didn't know. Like I
Mhm.
said, not included in routine testing.
Yeah.
So it's like we all already have. So it's kind of funny that people be like, I would never. I'm like, well, you already have.
Yeah.
But
I had an ex-boyfriend who had a cold sore on his lip sometimes,
yeah, that's herpes,
but
by the way.
I never got it. So, but like we just wouldn't make out when he would have it.
See, and that's like how I wish everybody treated genital herpes. It's
Yeah.
literally the same exact
It's the
thing.
same thing.
And like, because people will look up and it'll be like, HSV1 is oral. I'm like, no, both types of herpes you can get in
Mhm.
both places. It's
Yeah.
just like HSV1 was more common on the mouth, but because like, and often people would get it as children because we used to like kiss children on the mouth.
Oh,
But now we
interesting.
don't do that anymore. So HSV1 actually now is like becoming more and more common genitally. For like
Got
someone with a
it.
cold sore,
Yep.
if you go down on somebody with a cold sore, you give them herpes. You pass that to their genitals.
Okay.
So like when I got HSV1 genitally, it's like when the other person didn't know and then got their blood work, they didn't know. Do I have it on my mouth? Do I have it on my genitals? I don't know. I've never had a sign.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's
Oh
also
my
interesting
God.
when I disclose, like, I'll be like, oh, have you ever had a cold sore? And so many people are like, oh, yeah, I've had one before. And I'm like, oh, then you already have it.
Yeah.
And their mind is blown. They're like, I don't have herpes. I'm like,
You
yes, you
do.
do.
Like it's
Yes, you
okay. Like
do.
I'm
And
here to
it's
support
okay.
you through this news.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. But you do.
That's so interesting. Okay, so are there any like best questions or like things to avoid? Like let's say like I'm talking to a guy, I really fucking like him.
Okay.
We're about to like get intimate. Maybe it's not like right before, but he's sitting down at dinner and he's like, by the way, I have herpes,
Mhm.
FYI. Is there like anything like I should or shouldn't do? Because me, I'm like very like
Yes. This is a great
intellectual
question.
and I like, I'd want to know a lot, but I also don't want to like be non-sensitive because I care about his
Yes.
feelings.
Right. So it's like
Yeah.
someone discloses to you,
Yes.
what should you say? What should you do?
Yeah.
First thing you should do is you should thank them for telling you
That's
because
so
they could just
true.
not tell you.
Yeah. There's a
Okay.
lot of assholes out there.
And I admit this all the time. I have
Mhm.
slept with a few people and did not tell them. And
Okay.
I don't advise to do that.
Right.
It's just like, hey, it happened. I shouldn't have done that.
Yep.
So if you've done that and you have herpes, I forgive you. How about that? Okay?
Okay. We're a clean
happens.
slate, but
We're
like
all
let's move
human.
forward
Okay?
together. Okay.
So when someone tells you, thank them.
Yeah.
Say, wow, thank you. I know that's not easy to tell people
Mm-hmm.
because it's really not.
No.
And I think the only things like to ask them is like, oh, do you take medication for it? Fair question.
Mm-hmm.
And they might say like me, like I typically don't, but if I start seeing someone, I do, and I
Mhm.
can start taking it. That makes you feel better.
Okay.
And another question is like, how often do you have outbreaks? And most people, it's not often at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think there's like too many really questions to ask.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing is just being, understanding and thanking them for telling you.
Mm-hmm.
And especially like in that moment, they probably aren't being like, so you want to fuck right now or what?
Yeah.
Like-
I think you can step away and like think about it and
Yeah,
like
I
I
appreciate you
think
telling me. Like, and that's it. You don't have to give them an answer right then and there.
or make it weird or like
No.
start crying or like don't be weird. Just like be normal. It's okay.
Yeah. And then I advise everyone, whether you're being disclosed to or you're telling someone you have herpes,
Mm-hmm.
encourage people to ask doctors because they trust doctors more than like an
Totally.
average person.
Go to a primary source.
Yes, and every doctor is going to be like, "Oh yeah, this is not a big deal. I see this all the time."
Yeah.
It's much more common than you think.
Yeah, and like if you need to do your due diligence, go ahead and do it. Like that's
Mhm.
again, it's your body, it's your choice.
Yeah.
So,
I think what's hard is like, well, I guess this is from the perspective of like having it. I think what's hard for women that have herpes is it's like, if you want to break down dating to like, where is your power, right? Men's power is commitment. Usually the commitment is up to the man. Most women want to commit, and that decision's
mhm.
up to them. But then sex is the power that like women hold.
Mm,
Typically when a woman wants to have sex and whenever they're dating someone, the man is like, "Yep, along for the ride."
he's down.
Right? So it's like as women, we can have sex whenever we want. I can go to Dwayne Reed and find someone to have sex with. Okay? Right?
1000%.
That's
Yeah.
our power,
Yeah.
right? Men can get into a relationship whenever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
Like there's always going to be a woman willing to get into a relationship with them.
Okay.
Right? So that's where the power shifts. So as women, it's like when you get herpes, you almost kind of feel like you lose that power a little bit.
Yeah, it's
Like you
annoying.
suddenly feel like, oh, this isn't my decision anymore. And I don't like to think in relationships in terms of power, but I feel like it's like an extra layer that women feel.
Yes.
Whereas like a man disclosing, now it's more like if she wants to really date me and be with me, she'll probably be okay with this thing.
Not necessarily though, because
Yes and no. But
I see what you're saying, but also like you could like tell him date 3, like, hey, just so you know, I have this. I'm not saying that we're about to sleep together. FYI, I'm still watching you. Like you better fucking behave. You know what I mean? But I'm just telling
I
you
don't phrase
because
it that way, but I get it. Yeah.
but because I have to legally tell you / like ethically I'm gonna. But like now you know, and if you consent to this, like I still decide. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. It doesn't. I'm not saying it takes away your power. I'm saying that's
Yeah.
what it feels like.
yeah.
Because especially when I was young, it's like
Mhm.
I still was very much like I'd hook up with people here and there.
Oh,
I'd have
true,
fun
true,
when I wanted to
true.
have fun.
Yeah.
And I wasn't in this mindset like I so badly want a relationship or like really want a boyfriend. I was
Sometimes
like,
you just wanted to get your needs met.
well, I mean, still, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're all human. But it was more like, oh, I was still focused on figuring out my career and just
Mm.
hustling. So like I wasn't on dating apps, like really trying to go on dates and all this stuff. And so it suddenly felt like I couldn't be in the hookup game anymore.
Got it.
And I found that out to be true. Because that's another question I get is people are like, oh, does this mean I can't like hook up with people anymore? I'm like, no, you absolutely can.
Yeah, you just have
You
to
just
let
have
them
to tell
know.
people. And like,
Mhm.
hey, look, you might be getting rejected a little bit more than you usually did, which sucks. But you'll live.
You'll
And
live.
there'll still be people that do not care.
Totally.
There's always someone who doesn't care. But I think that's another good thing though too, was especially when I joined that group of women, all of them were like, the good thing about having herpes is it weeds out people that did just want to sleep with you.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, would I risk this for someone I just want to sleep with? Probably not.
Yeah.
But oh, I'm actually interested and I want to date them. Like those guys always were fine with it. Maybe they didn't sleep with me like as soon as someone else would, like
Mm.
before I had herpes.
Yeah.
Or sorry, but they didn't sleep with me as soon as maybe they would have if I didn't have it.
Yeah.
But like the guys that liked me, we just continued dating and eventually we're there.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey.
I think yeah. What?
Your other question.
What?
I forgot to say this. I always
Oh
say
yeah.
this.
Tell.
Okay, if you have herpes, all right,
Mhm.
this is probably the number one thing nobody talks to you about.
Okay.
You deserve great sex, by the way.
Oh, fuck
You
yeah.
deserve great sex. I myself put up with bad sex in relationships
Really?
just to be like, yeah, because it was like I was just so excited to be having sex again and have someone be cool with herpes. So I'm like, I don't fault you if that's you or you've done that. But like, I would always hit a point in those relationships. I'd be like, oh, but this isn't good. Like I had one guy who like wouldn't go down on me. And I was like, hey, if that's something you don't do, or if it's like because I have herpes, like I get it. I'm not going to force anybody to do anything. I was like,
Mhm.
but I also don't have to stay.
Yeah.
You know? And but that's hard. A lot of times you're just so happy to be like, someone accepted this about me. But then you're like accepting a bad sex life, which is like, no, herpes does not diminish your sex life and it shouldn't.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting point because you still should keep your standards just as high,
Yes.
but just screen guys by telling them, date 3 or whenever works with your timeline.
Yeah, you don't have to do it date 3.
But but then be like, okay, now you consent. Now let's get back to regularly scheduled programming.
Yeah, it really
Yeah,
shouldn't change anything. Is
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say.
totally.
You know? So it's like it took me a while to figure that out, and I kind of wish someone said that to me because sometimes there's this attitude, especially from people that don't have it.
Mm,
And I feel like it's like a settling attitude that we've all had for different reasons. But I've gotten it
totally.
with herpes reasons where it's kind of like, oh, but he's cool with herpes. It's like,
No,
okay.
that's not a personality trait.
Yeah. I'm
Like,
like,
it's
I
not
don't.
that cool.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not cool with bad sex. So,
No,
but I suddenly have to be now because I have herpes.
no,
Yeah.
no.
No.
I just think that it's something that happened. It's a medical condition. You addressed
It's
it.
a skin condition.
It's
really.
a skin
It's
condition.
like if you had eczema.
Yeah, and everyone has something.
Yes.
Nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect.
Okay, I have a game. Let's
Okay.
quickly play. It's called Ick or Lick.
Ick or lick.
Yep.
So like,
If you like it, you lick
Like a
it.
smash or pass.
Yeah, if you hate it, you ick it.
Okay.
So the first one is choosing your partners based on star signs.
That's a huge ick for me.
Okay.
Not
Plan
a fan.
for me, I would maybe do it. I can't decide.
Oh, Marin, come on.
I know. I
You're in your
really
30s. What are you doing? Star signs?
I'm still the jury's out.
Star signs?
There's certain signs I just do not vibe with. But if that was the only deal breaker, then I would look past it, obviously.
But I thought it's like the minute you're like, oh, I'm of this sign, then people go, oh, but what's your moon and what's your rising and, you know, blah, blah, blah.
True.
Because
And
nobody guesses I'm a Taurus. All these astrology people, they're so into it. They're like, I know vibes. I'm like, what am I? No one guesses.
they don't know your vibe.
They don't guess Taurus. That I'm like, this
Really?
all means shit.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Me and my mom are both Tauruses. We're born like 2 days apart.
Mm-hmm.
My mom and I could not be more different people.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's trash.
Okay.
It's trash.
I
Stop
appreciate that
using that as an
prerogative.
ick.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and like champion astrology because I don't know enough about it to be like, blah, blah,
Come
blah.
on.
But I just, some
I
people,
date men shorter than me. Date a Scorpio or whatever you don't like.
I'm a Scorpio.
Okay, sorry. I don't know. I don't know who you don't vibe with.
We're a little
Yeah.
cray cray. Okay. Planning a date for a man.
I mean, that's very vague, but
Would you
I
do
don't think
it?
that's a bad thing. Yeah.
Okay. I would say
That's
ick.
why I was like, what date? We're talking first date?
I planned like a 5th date one time and I hated it. I need to plan like maybe like once we're official, then I'll start planning.
No, I don't abide by that.
You don't abide?
No.
What do you think? What number
Well, it's
should you
like, do
start
you have no
planning?
opinions? There's nothing like you want to go do or try. There's not like a bar you want to go check out. Why can't you just be like, oh, I want to check out this restaurant. Let's go.
Yeah, I guess I could.
Oh, I snagged a reservation.
I guess I'm not like allergic to it. I'm just like very over the
Oh,
top.
God.
And so it's
I
like
didn't
when
want to say this with your game title, but I was like, I feel like icks are for women in their 20s. I'm like, let's get over it. You know what I mean?
yeah, but I still think that you can have an ick at any age.
Yeah. But it's like a valid deal breaker ick. I'm usually like, roll my eyes. Like, that's why you call it an ick. It's like such a little thing.
Yeah, I think like an ick is like it depends on what it is. It could like you could have a slight ick, you could have
Yeah.
a medium ick, or you could have a major ick. And then I would say if it's a major ick, it's maybe on the territory of deal breaker.
Yeah, I would just call it a deal breaker.
Yeah.
You know? Like
Just
a
like
legit thing. Like, he
it's
doesn't
just
want
linguistics.
kids, ick or lick. I'm like, deal breaker. This is what? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, for
Yeah,
me,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, anyway, sorry.
But like
didn't mean to say
I wouldn't
anything.
say like having kids, I wouldn't say is that an ick or a lick. I think that's a different category.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay. Ooh, the man sending an Uber for a date.
To pick me up?
Mhm.
For a first date?
It could be the second or the third once you've known him.
I think what's hard with this is like, do I trust giving someone my address?
Yeah,
Someone I met from an app, first, second, third date, I'm like, nah.
you're
ick.
still strangers.
You're a stranger. I'm
Yeah.
not giving you my address.
Yeah,
The gesture is a lick.
but
That's why this
the
one's hard.
but the
It's like, oh, it's a thoughtful
safety
thing. It's
issue
generous.
is an
It's nice.
ick.
But giving me an Uber to and from my place.
Yeah,
No. When you're still a stranger to me, first couple dates, I'd be like, oh, that's very generous of you, but it's okay.
yeah.
I don't want you to have my address. Or I guess I could do like the McDonald's that's near me, but it's still like, I don't like it.
You don't like it.
I don't like it from a safety standpoint.
I agree. I think
So
the
I
old
ick
me
it.
would have been like, send me an Uber every time, bitch. But now I'm kind of like, let's be safe. I've just heard too many stories of people getting killed from dating apps.
I mean, women getting
Um,
killed in general.
yeah, that's true. How about guys who really like crypto?
I really don't know a lot about crypto. I feel like it's if you know a lot about anything and that's all you talk about, it's an ick. So the crypto guy, the stereotype is they just fucking talk about crypto at you.
Mm,
So ick.
yeah, for me, that's an ick.
Yeah.
With peace and love to the crypto guys. I just don't like it.
Yeah. It's also like imaginary money to me. So I'm just kind of like, this is not even real money.
Yeah, and I feel like those who get it, those who don't. But I just like don't care to get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. I haven't interacted with too many, but probably an ick.
How about tattoos?
Lick, I don't really think that matters.
Really?
Yeah.
I kind of don't like
Some
them.
tattoos are hot.
I think
Have
some
you ever
of
been
them.
with a guy that has a lot of tattoos?
I've been with a guy who occasionally has a tattoo.
Occasionally has a tattoo? Like
I've
in
never
his
been with
temporary?
like a Travis Barker. Like he has a lot of tattoos.
Travis Barker all over their face and whatnot. But,
Yeah.
like just like a one sleeve. You never been with a guy that has like one sleeve or like
I don't think
six?
those guys like me.
Oh, dude.
I think I'm a little too girly for those guys.
Listen, I used to never be into tattoos,
Mhm.
and it's not something I necessarily seek out. But then I hooked up with a few tattoo guys. They're fucking best.
Really?
Yeah, they're
Okay.
the perfect combo of like aggressive but sweet.
See, here's the thing. If they were really amazing and they just happen to have tattoos, like, I'm not gonna, like, let it deter me.
See, here's what I'm gonna say.
Mm,
Men, when they dress up, are covered. So it's so easy for men to hide tattoos.
true.
Women, it's the opposite. We reveal more skin when we get dressed up. So if anything, I'm jealous of men that it's like, oh, they can have a full sleeve and you would never know. There's people you've worked with that like have plenty of tattoos and you have absolutely no idea.
But here's my problem with them.
What?
When a guy has a really ugly tattoo, it just makes me doubt his sensibility. Because I'm just like,
mean,
how could you choose that?
A lot
Like,
of people have
what?
bad tattoos, but yeah, I get what you mean. They got it
Yeah.
when they're young, stuff like that. But also, you can
Mm,
get that can get removed.
true.
You know.
True.
Also, are you Jewish?
No.
Oh, okay, but that's the thing, right?
Is
If
that
you
a
have a tattoo,
Jewish
you
thing?
can't get buried in a Jewish cemetery.
Oh, so
Yeah.
the Jewish community is
So
anti-tattoo.
I was like, oh, I didn't know. Does that come from like, I bring you to meet my parents, and there's like a thing about the
Oh,
tattoos?
no.
But I feel like our generation doesn't really care about tattoos anymore. It used to be this kind of big stigma, but now I'm like, everybody has them. I don't have any, and I actually probably would never get one. But I'm like, you got tattoos, cool.
I don't have one either, but I don't know. Maybe. I almost got one the other night at the
What?
box because they were giving away free tattoos.
Oh no, don't do that.
And I got a little tipsy and I was like, ooh, should I get one?
Oh no.
And then I was like, where on my body would I put it? And there's like nowhere I could
I
think
think
of.
you're actually not supposed to like drink days before and days after.
Yeah, that was
It thins your
silly.
blood, so don't do that.
That was not the vibe.
Yeah.
But I'm like, imagine getting your first tattoo at the box. Actually, that's dirty as fuck. Okay, I take that back.
I was just like, imagine you do that, and then you just said what you said, but you're like, an ugly tattoo.
I know, because
I'm like, I'd be like, you got drunk and got a free one?
I know.
There's no thought behind it? That's Nick.
That's Nick.
Have a little thought behind it.
I know. Okay. This person said, would you ever date an English guy? I feel like your humor is quite sarcastic. Like us Brits. Love
me.
love from London. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm open to pretty much all. I mean, literally, I'm open to all races, countries, whatever.
Okay. This person asked if you
But I'm like, yeah, London would be cool.
I think
Europeans are more direct in general, so I do think I vibe a little bit more with
a London boy.
European men in general.
Yeah.
They're very direct. It's really not a lot of bullshit.
You're gonna hate this, but my astrologer told me that I'm gonna probably end up with somebody from overseas.
Okay.
So if it happens, I will message you and let you
It's up
know.
to you.
How to deal or do you this person said how to disclose to guys from the apps that you have herpes, but do you just not like you're on
I
the
don't
date?
disclose it
like
when I
you're
go on a date.
okay, so you're not saying it on the
No.
apps.
You have to. This is the other thing. You're in your head about disclosing. It's like, do you even like this person?
Yeah.
Like, especially at app. We've never met.
That's like the first criteria.
Yeah. Do I like? If anything, that's why I'm like, get out there. I know a lot of times you get herpes and you don't want to get out there. I'm like, get back out there because all it takes is a bad date where you're like, oh, I don't even like that guy, and I was so worried about disclosing for what?
Yeah,
I'm just never gonna see that guy again.
totally.
That's what you need, or girl again.
Whoever.
Whoever.
The last question is best comedy club in New York, other than the comedy club or the comedy
Comedy
cellar,
Cellar?
I think they mean.
Okay. Well, all the comedy clubs now have kind of changed to a similar model where they have several different comedians. Gotham Comedy Club's great. That's also great if you have a big group because it's a really big room, so you can usually
Mhm.
get a reservation for that many people. A lot of times I go based on lineup, so it's very hard for me to say. But like, it's like there's also New York Comedy Club, same style. There's usually like 8 comics on the lineup, so it's like, hey, some you might love, some you might go, not for me. And same with the Stand. The Stand tends to have a lot of the same people. I mean, every club tends to have a lot of the same people. I'd go Gotham is probably my number 2.
Gotham.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Gotham's great.
What is your biggest piece of dating advice? And then plug yourself.
Oh, my biggest piece of dating advice. I'm like, there's so many I could like regurgitate from other people. I would probably say based on this episode, don't be afraid to initiate, but also match their energy.
Yeah.
So if you're always the one initiating, it's not going anywhere. But initiating, I don't think is a bad thing for specifically women to do, like we get told.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that having like reciprocal energy is the vibe. And as somebody who talks to women all day, every day about dating and men, it's just like drives me a little crazy when women just become so passive or like they want the guy to like basically go on a scavenger hunt to find them. It's
Yes.
like have some agency in your love life, I think. And initiate
Yeah.
if you want to.
Yeah, but I think my latest thing has been kind of veering away from the apps. Actually, I've been like putting myself out there more in different ways, and more like real life events. They're
IRL.
just literally being out there.
Amazing.
So
Okay.
approach people in real life. People want to get approached.
Say hi.
Yeah, say hello. Literally just say hey.
What's up?
I wanted to introduce myself. You seem like a fun group, or you seem fun.
What's good here?
Literally
Yeah.
anything. Compliment their shoes. That's an easy compliment for
Oh, that's a
them.
good one. Okay, where can people find you?
I'm at Spericaa on pretty much everything, which is SPERICAA. And I have 2 podcasts, Shooters Gotta Shoot and Finding Mr. Right, if you want to check those out.
Amazing. Thank
So,
you, Erica.
yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thanks again to our sponsor, First Rounds on Me. If you're tired of endless small talk with an overwhelming number of pen pals, go download First Rounds on Me now and get yourself a real date.